Hare Krishna, welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. We are going to continue with the Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. We will start with verse number 67 and then complete the whole remaining chapter of this Bhagavad Gita. So let me offer my prayers first. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, excuse me, chapter number 2, entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, verse number 67. Excuse me. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano anuvidhyate tad asya harati pragnam vayurnavam ivambhasi. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Excuse me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaja Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in, in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunamritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. A very beautiful verse indeed. Here we can see that there is a connection between the mind, the senses, and the intelligence. All three are playing an important role. So here Krishna is giving knowledge to Arjuna on the battlefield before the battle has started, and he's explaining to him that just as there is a strong wind, what happens? It sways the boat away on the water. It just sways it far away. Similarly, if one of the senses are roaming, like, the eyes are going after something, the ears are after any one of the roaming senses, if the mind is focusing on any of the sense objects, then what will happen? The intelligence will be swayed away. Intelligence will be carried away, which means intelligence is not working at that time. So if the senses are roaming, getting attached to sense objects, and the mind is trying to focus on that object, then the intelligence is not able to help. Why? Because the mind is not properly engaged. Just like we see with little children. If we don't give them a positive engagement, then they create havoc. They throw tantrums, they are so distracted, they, destroy property or things or toys or whatever it may be. So they need proper engagement, something that interests them to occupy their senses properly. So here also with us, if the mind is not properly engaged, then the mind is not strong, it is not steady, and it easily gets swayed away. Even though the mind is trying to focus, still it gets strayed away, completely swayed away, far, far away. So it's important that we understand this connection between the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. If we engage all our senses in service to the Supreme Lord, in other words, we become conscious of Him, we work in such a way, we act in such a way that we are following His instructions. At the same time, we are changing our consciousness. Then the mind will come under control. So there's a process. This process is very clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita, that proper focused engagement is required. I'll give you an analogy. Supposing I'm driving at night and it's very dark, there are not enough street lights, it's a very narrow road, and I want to avoid accident. I don't want, to meet with an accident. So what do? I will switch on the headlights, correct? But instead of switching on the headlights, what I do, I take a bulb which is lit, I turn down the window, and I take the bulb and I bring it in front of the windshield. I just put my hand out and I bring the bulb right in front. Will I get enough light? No. That bulb light will come straight to my eyes because I'm holding it right. But what is the difference between a bulb light and the headlight of the car? There is a special mirror inside, or I don't know how to explain it, but it is so designed that that headlight focuses straight on the street right in front of the car. So then it becomes easy for us to drive the car. So if I turn on the headlight, which is actually focused on the street, then I'll be very safe in driving. So similarly, the mind needs to be focused. It should not be running everywhere, here also, there also. Right now, I'm listening to Bhagavad Gita, but my mind is going to probably Hawaii. And then after some time, the mind is running to New York, or, is going to the kitchen. No, it has to be focused. And that proper focused engagement will help in controlling the mind. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives a very simple, easy method to control the mind, and that is called mantra meditation. When we chant the holy names of the Lord, those sound vibrations, they purify the mind, they purify the heart, they purify the senses. And then we are able to control. And then no matter how strong the wind is, it is not going to sway away our boat of intelligence, because now intelligence has been fed with knowledge. So now intelligence is strong and is able to control the mind, and then the mind is able to control the senses. This is how Krishna is explaining to Arjuna. Let's see what he says in the next verse, number 68. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nikritani sarvashah indrayani indrayarthebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. Translation. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. So here we have a formula of having steady intelligence. What do we need to do? Restrain the senses, which means regulate the senses. Just like we discipline our children, just like we are disciplined at place of work, that is required. So similarly, there should be some sort of discipline for the senses, which means regulations. Once the senses are regulated, which means we know what is right, what is wrong, what is good to see, what is good to hear, what is good to eat. If we regulate our senses, then the intelligence will also become steady, and association plays a very important part. I'll give you an example. Supposing I never drink, I don't take alcohol at all. Not supposing, actually I don't take any alcohol, but supposing that I start associating with those who like to drink every day, or those who like to drink a lot every day. So even though I do not drink, I will gradually develop that desire to start drinking. Why? It's the effect of association. So association plays an important role. So if we associate with like-minded people, if we associate with those who are spiritually inclined, then we will also develop that desire to be on that path. So it's important that the intelligence will become steady with the help of knowledge and association. Now, how can we do that? We can, of course, try to curb or reduce our sense enjoyment. See, in this world, many people have a formula which they say is eat, sleep, and be merry. This is their motto in life, that okay, we just want to eat, sleep, have fun. Just life is all about that. So if we really want to, purify our consciousness, purify our mind, then we need to curb this sense gratification, what you can say, habit that we may have. This is how mind can be controlled. Right engagement, like the higher taste, go for the higher taste, not for the lower taste. It's Bhagavad Gita is not talking about negation. Oh, you can't sleep, you can't eat, you cannot work. No, it's not about don't do this. It's all about proper engagement and positive engagement. And that we can, to do that, we definitely need guidance from a spiritual teacher, because the spiritual teacher already has knowledge, has experience, is practicing what the teacher is preaching. So once we get guidance from a spiritual teacher, then we are able to kind of advance on this transcendental platform. Let's see what Krishna says in verse number 69. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Very important. So there are two kinds of people: those who are very much into sense enjoyment and those who are self-realized. Both are intelligent. The one who is enjoying the senses is also intelligent because they know how to enjoy those senses. So here Prabhupada in his purport is saying that there are these two kinds of intelligent people: those who are sense enjoyers and those who are self-realized. Now, they both are alert and awake. But alert and awake is only applying to those who are self-realized. Those who are into sense enjoyment, they are asleep. How can we say that they are asleep? Because they are in ignorance. They are asleep means they are in ignorance. They just do not understand that this human form of life is very valuable. It is not meant for just enjoying the senses. We have philosophical intelligence by which we can inquire, who are we? Why are we here in this material world? Why am I suffering? Why there are so many miseries in my life? And most importantly, how can I break this cycle of misery? So this is what actually entails to self-realization. But those who are into sense enjoyment, they are asleep, which means they are in ignorance. They haven't got a higher taste. They are still living on lower taste. But those who are self-realized, they gradually start advancing. They start going more and more towards higher taste. Excuse me, I have a bad throat. So the self-realized person is always alert and awake. Awake to what? Awake to spiritual knowledge, awake to transcendence. So this is what Krishna is explaining. Let's see verse number 70. Excuse me. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. What an analogy. So here, again, we get another formula, is about peace, how to be peaceful. So Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, in fact, showing him how to be peaceful by giving a very nice analogy of the ocean. So we see that, so many rivers, they incessantly flow into the ocean. They are just flowing with full force, and they go and meet in the ocean. But the ocean is steady. Have we ever heard that, the ocean is overfilled or it is crossing its line? Yes, sometimes there is high tide, but that is not what Krishna is talking about. He's talking about that there, even though there is rainfall, so many times, so many days, there is, especially in India, there is what you call a monsoon season, where 4 months straight, 4 months, there's just rain, rain, and more rain. In fact, there is flooding and all this, too much rain. But in spite of all that rain, the ocean is steady. Now, how does that apply to us? Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that the ocean does not get agitated with all that water flowing into its body. It does not get agitated. That is what happens when we follow Bhagavad Gita. When we put Bhagavad Gita into practice, then our mind is calm. It does not get agitated. By what? By so many desires that come into our mind. It's called excessive desires. Like one may have one desire, and before that is satisfied, there's another desire and another desire. So there are innumerable desires that come into one's mind. But if a person is self-realized, remain steady. All these desires do not agitate his mind at all. He's not disturbed at all. So here's the analogy of the ocean with a self-realized person, someone who has become fully conscious of the Supreme Lord, fully conscious of Krishna. Of course, the demands of the body are there, and that's okay. But the self-realized person does not get disturbed by that, is completely satisfied, just like the ocean is full in itself, is completely steady and calm. So also a self-realized person is fully satisfied and not agitated, because the desires will keep coming. It's not that one will become desireless. No, that stage will never come. The desires will keep coming. But a person needs to understand that all desires cannot be fulfilled. So when do people become unhappy? When their desires are not satisfied. And because of that, they are unhappy. And those who are unhappy, naturally, there is no peace in life. So here we see there is so much talk that Krishna is, he's giving us knowledge about how to understand the connection between the mind, the senses, and the intelligence. They all work together. In fact, later on, we'll see that Krishna says that the senses are above the sense objects. The mind is above the senses. The intelligence is above the mind. The soul is above the intelligence, and the Supreme Lord is above the soul. So this is how it is. So right at the bottom are the sense objects. Then comes the senses. So here, if the intelligence controls the mind, then the mind will control the senses, and a person will be peaceful and happy. Let's see what he says in verse number 71. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain peace. So, again, more information to us about how to be peaceful in life. We have to meet all these criteria, all of these. What is the first one? That given up all desires for sense gratification. Then one may say, then what is left in life to do? If I cannot have desires, if I cannot satisfy my desires, then there is nothing left in life to do. No, there is. Let me give you an example. Say, supposing I feel like eating pizza today. Fine, that's a desire. But if somehow the other I can offer that food first to the Supreme Lord as a sacrifice, and then I eat that blessed food, that spiritualized food, that spiritualized pizza, then I'm satisfied. What did I do? Action was the same. I just tweaked it a little bit. I first offered it to the Supreme Lord so that that food can be blessed by the Lord. And then when I eat, my desire was fulfilled to eat a pizza, but at the same time, I did not commit any sinful activity, or I did not add any more karma to my life. It was karma free. It's just a matter of consciousness. That's about it. So here he's saying, person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires. What he means by free from desires is free from material desires. As I had explained earlier also, we are spirit souls, which means we are spiritual beings right now having a human experience. But unfortunately, people think we are human beings. No, we are spiritual beings in a human body, having a human experience. So if we understand that we are spiritual beings and this is not our home, this is a temporary, this body is on lease given to us for X number of years, then we will be able to move further. So he says, free from desire and given up all sense of proprietorship. We claim the spouse is mine, children are mine, house is mine, car is mine. We like to be the proprietor of everything, but nothing belongs to us. When we came into this world, we came empty-handed. When we go from this world, when we give up this body, we go empty-handed. We cannot take anything with us. We are not the proprietors of anything. So if we come to that consciousness that the Supreme Lord Krishna is the actual proprietor, and then he says, devoid of false ego. Now the question is, what is false ego? So there is real ego, and then there is false ego. False ego is, I am this body, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am the Lord of all I survey. That's false ego. Then what is real ego? Real ego is, I am the spirit soul, I am part of the Supreme Lord Krishna. My constitutional position is to be an eternal servant of Krishna. That is real ego. So here, Krishna is talking about giving up all desires for sense enjoyment and give up proprietorship, give up false ego. Then one will get peace of mind, which is not temporary. It's going to be permanent peace, permanent happiness. So that desire just needs to be dovetailed, just like on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, there are Pandavas and there are Kauravas. They have gathered there to fight with each other. And here Krishna is with the Pandavas. He is driving the chariot of Arjuna, and he's speaking this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna for our benefit. And Arjuna, he fought the battle for Krishna because it was Krishna's desire. Krishna wanted it. So if somehow or the other we can understand that we are not the proprietor of anything, nothing belongs to us. Nice example I can give you of Alexander the Great. We all have heard in our history about Alexander the Great, was a great conqueror, great king. He had amassed so much opulence, so many kingdoms, he won. There was so many under him. He was the controller of so many people, so many kingdoms. Such a powerful warrior he was, a powerful king. But then when it was his time to leave the body, he had already given instructions that after my death, when you bury me, make sure my hands are out of the grave. So the question was, why? Have you ever heard anyone's, come up with such a desire that, my hands should be out of the grave? He said, yes, I want people to see that Alexander the Great, who had amassed so much wealth, so much fame, so much power, at the time of death, he went empty handed. He could not take anything with him. So it's important to understand from the second chapter, all these verses that we are reading just now, this evening, that it's all about using, first of all, understanding nothing belongs to us. Even this body, we have to leave one day. Right now, it belongs to this person, but then afterwards, this also is going to go away. So if we can understand how we can use everything in service to Krishna, that is self-realization. To understand, I am part of the Supreme Lord, and I am actually a spirit soul. I am not this body, and I need to control my mind by using my intelligence, feeding my intelligence with knowledge, and then the mind can control the senses, and then somehow or the other dovetail all desires in service to the Supreme Lord. Then there will be peace and happiness. One cannot find peace by trying to control. We have tried to control. We've tried to control our own body, but we are unsuccessful. Cannot control the eyelids. They blink whenever they need to blink. Cannot control the disease that comes to this body. We cannot control old age. We cannot control death. These are all beyond our control. So important to give up this false proprietorship. Let's do the last verse of this chapter, which is number 72, verse number 72. That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. This is the last verse of chapter 2, which is entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized. So here we are getting knowledge about how to lead a spiritual and godly life. If we do that, then there will be no bewilderment. Then there will be no confusion, because every activity that we will perform will be actually karma yoga. In fact, the next chapter, number 3, is entitled Karma Yoga, where we will learn more about karma yoga. But here, Krishna is giving us a formula to lead a successful human life. Use our philosophical intelligence to apply the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita in our day-to-day life. If one really desires to be self-realized, it can happen in a moment. Or if the desire is not strong enough, it can take many lifetimes. We may be born again and again and again, maybe millions of births, and still one may not be self-realized. So it's something that we have to choose for ourselves. If we decide that, yes, I want to lead a spiritual and godly life, then we follow the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. And then one can become self-realized even in a moment. There's a nice story in the scriptures about Khatwanga Maharaj, a king named Khatwanga, when he came to know that he only had one moment left before he would leave the body. He was fortunate to get an appointment with death. He came to know that, okay, you just have one moment. Do we have any appointments? Do we know that on this day, at this time, we'll be leaving the body? No. But he was fortunate. He inquired, when am I going to die? And he was told in one moment. That one moment he did not waste. He immediately started thinking of God. He immediately started concentrating his mind on Krishna. He immediately started doing mantra meditation, chanting the holy names of the Lord, because according to the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajat ante kalevaram. Tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. What does that mean? That, excuse me, whatever we think at the time of death, to that state we will attain without fail. So what are we going to think at the time of death? Obviously, what we have done throughout our life. Wherever our attachment has been, to whomsoever we are attached to, whether it's a thing or a person or whatever it is, that is what our consciousness will be. And so at the time of death, that is what we will think of. And that is where we will go. That is what Krishna is saying. So if we really want to, end this cycle of misery, if we want to end this material life, then the only way is to come to the state of liberation, which means to be self-realized, to understand that this human form of life is meant for self-realization, not just for sense enjoyment. It is meant for self-realization. And when we understand from the Bhagavad Gita how to perform those activities, which means how to do devotional service, that will bring us to the transcendental platform. Then, even though we will be in the same body in which we are right now, we will not be materially affected. We will be on a liberated stage, no more material bondage. Then Krishna says in this last verse that, and if that is our situation, then at death, we will enter the spiritual world, which means we would have qualified ourselves, just like if, say, someone from India wants to come to the US, they have to have a visa because that is a requirement. So one has to qualify to get that visa so that they get entry into the country, in not just US, any country, whichever country has that regulation to have a visa, we need to qualify. So similarly, if our intelligence is sharpened with knowledge, and that intelligence starts controlling the mind, and that mind starts controlling the senses, and one can understand how this connection is between mind, senses, and intelligence, then one starts working on that platform and starts coming to the transcendental stage, which is self-realization. In fact, chapter 2 is talking about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. All three different types of yoga has been explained from verse 1 through 72. We have covered 72 verses in chapter 2. This is just an overview of the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 2 is considered the overview, or you can call the bird's eye view. So if we somehow or the other can understand chapter 2, then we'll be able to understand the other chapters in succession. So all this is possible only when one takes the first step. And the first step to understanding is mantra meditation. Very, very important, because here we are hearing the theory part, and now we need to do some practicals also, because theory and practicals equal to self-realization. So as always, we will do some mantra meditation for a few minutes. And also, I would like to know if any of you had the opportunity to meditate. Like I explain every Tuesday, after the class, we do a little bit of mantra meditation for a few minutes. If any of you have been practicing, if yes, what was your experience? Maybe if you would like to speak about it or put it in chat, that would be nice. And what I'll also do is in the chat, I will also put the links for these Zoom classes, for the Facebook page, for the YouTube channel link, and also a WhatsApp group. If you would like to join, you're very welcome to join, where you will get updates almost every day. And I've also put the mantra in the chat so that if you like, you can chant with me, and you will notice that you will feel happy and peaceful. It is a very what you can say, a very very powerful mantra. It has, there are many mantras in the Vedas, many mantras are mentioned, but the this special mantra, which is called the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, has the potency of all the mantras put together in just one mantra. So it's my humble request to all of you that if you can please chant with me, that would be very nice. You can read the mantra which is already posted in the chat, and you can please chant with me. So we'll just chant for a few minutes so you get a feel of that. I really like Amber. She's in a very nice meditative pose. I can see on her picture. That's wonderful. So let us start chanting for just a few minutes, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is how we chant. If we can chant maybe 10 minutes a day, we will see there's a huge change in our consciousness. This is a very powerful mantra which goes straight from the ears into the heart, and it starts purifying the heart. So if I'm going to end here now, if anyone has any questions,